It's really good to be here with St Andrews College. I've come to talk to the students today and get them to be involved in this conversation around social media, its impact on us, particularly our wellness, and also looking at how we project ourselves online in this two-dimensional space, our online identity, how that can help us with future employment, how it can work against us. And I'm also interested in talking about how we think that communication has been shaped because of the evolution of this digital technology. There are certainly some positive outcomes from it. I mean, there's an abundance of examples of how positive technology has influenced our life. But there are also some negative things that we can probably discuss today as well. What I do hope you all agree is that technology is a good tool, and we can use it successfully and ethically if we express our self-worth and our human dignity when we use this technology. So I'm not here to demonise technology. I think one of the other things that we need to be mindful of is that as adults, I think we should not judge you so much in the way that we do because of your use of technology, your age group. I think we've drawn a line and said that because you're younger than us and you make mistakes with technology, we say it's based on your age. And I don't agree with that at all. And I think the judgment that we often express causes young people to stop talking to us. And I'm all about helping young people find their own voice to advocate for themselves and others. So let's have a discussion around this topic right now. I'd like to start with you. As far as social media is concerned, any comments you'd make about the impact that you think it may have had on wellness or how people feel about themselves?
Well, it can have some really positive impacts, including like instant communication, which is really vital for like long-term friendships. But there are also some negative impacts which can affect self-esteem, and make people feel excluded also. Okay,
I like that word excluded. That's an interesting point that you raised there. There's a term called relational bullying, where people deliberately leave people out of groups to isolate them, and that's very damaging for a young person, particularly as they move through adolescence. And those things can be very destructive to a person. And obviously it exists online, but it also exists offline as well. And I think it always comes back to the individual, how they feel about themselves and their willingness to treat others with respect as well. Any comments that you make?
I definitely agree with that. There's a lot of excluding, especially on social media and in the real life, with like all through high school. I noticed that when I was at high school. But it is, you're right, if you have, if you're okay within yourself, then you don't really notice it as much. Yeah. But online, it will affect you. But you have to just be like, it's not that big of a problem for myself. Like, you have to be okay with yourself for it to not affect you.
So to back yourself?
Yeah, you've got to back yourself, always.
Right. Any comments you'd make?
No, they said it all pretty much. Be confident in yourself, and if you're well within yourself, you'll be able to just brush it off your shoulder.
Right. And yourself?
Oh, same. I totally agree. Because if you're not feeling confident with yourself, it's easier to be put down, and then it's easier to let things get to you, which can really have an impact on your well-being.
Okay, and I think that the issue that we often have, though, is if you've got someone that isn't confident, or perhaps they've got low self-worth, then it can be difficult for them in those situations to deal with that kind of pressure, particularly when they're large numbers. So I totally agree that confidence is something we can use to fortify ourselves and look after ourselves. But getting to that position of being confident, getting to that position of having self-worth and valuing self requires a lot more work.
It takes a very long time. You can't expect it to happen overnight. Like, personally for myself, it's taken, 5 years for me to get to the place where I am, to overcome all mental health issues and to be okay with myself and confidence in public, etc. So it doesn't happen overnight. Don't expect it to be quick. Like, if you're not okay right now, it's no problem. It will come in time. It's a learning thing.
And go and talk to someone. Go and talk to people. The biggest tool that I want young people to develop is their ability to self-advocate and speak for themselves. It's vital. And we live in a democracy. You have rights. You have human rights. And if you think people are treating you without respect, what I encourage you always to do is to speak up and talk to people that can actually support you. Now, arriving at a person that is confident is a journey, and that journey is contributed to by other people in that person's life. One of the common things I get from young people is that You know, mom and dad are always on their devices. I've learned to ask mom and dad the same question 4 times. I feel a bit ignored by mom and dad because even when we go for a walk or go to a restaurant, they're always on their phones. That's a common complaint I get from young people. The American Pediatrics Association did research, and the research showed that families that eat together with their children regularly, those children are more fortified in the world in which they exist and can cope better with stressful situations. And I think that's incredible when you think about it, because no anti-bullying education that I've seen that's been delivered in schools so far really talks about the importance of that close connection between a family and the girl or boy that's growing up in that family. In a minute, I'm going to play you a video. And in this video, what I want you to see is the effects of what happens is when we don't pay attention to our young. We'll watch the video and then we'll break it down, and then we'll segue into how you can think about that video and what you can do for yourself and other people as well. Let's roll the video.
Babies this young are extremely responsive to the emotions and the reactivity and the social interaction that they get from the world around them. This is something that we started studying 30, 40 years ago, when people didn't think that infants could engage in social interaction. In the still face experiment, what the mother did was she sits down and she's playing with her baby who's about a year of age.
I'm my good girl. Oh.
And she gives a greeting to the baby gives a greeting back to her.
Yeah.
This baby starts pointing at different places in the world, and the mother's trying to engage her and play with her. They're working to coordinate their emotions and their intentions, what they want to do in the world. And that's really what the baby is used to. And then we ask the mother to not respond to the baby. The baby very quickly picks up on this, and then she uses all of her abilities to try and get the mother back. She smiles at the mother. She points because she's used to the mother looking where she points. The baby puts both hands up in front of her and says, "What's happening here?" She makes that screechy sound at the mother, like, "Come on, why aren't we doing this?" Even in this 2 minutes, when they don't get the normal reaction, they react with negative emotions, they turn away, they feel the stress of it, they actually may lose control of their posture because of the stress that they're experiencing.
Okay. I'm here. And what are you doing? Oh, yes. Oh, what a big girl.
It's a little like the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good is that normal stuff that goes on, that we all do with our kids. The bad is when something bad happens, but the infant can overcome it. After all, when you stop the still face, the mother and the baby start to play again. The ugly is when you don't give the child any chance to get back to the good. There's no reparation, and they're stuck in that really ugly situation.
So what you see in the video is a baby that's got harmonised communication with mom. She's paying attention to a child, and then the minute mom looks away and looks back, mom has got no reaction on her face, and instantly you see the baby change. The baby arches to look bigger, waves, makes a noise that nobody likes the sound of a baby crying, and we're not meant to. We shouldn't tolerate that. And then eventually what mom does is pays attention to the baby's needs, and then you see the baby completely change and relax and start to smile and be engaged. What the baby has learnt there, which is really important, that when her needs are not being met, if she self-advocates basically, if she lets mom know what she needs, her life has the potential to get better because she's communicated. Where the damage is done is if that mom continually decided not to look at the child, eventually the child, I think, would just give up and stop trying to get help. Well, the baby's needs at that age are very basic because the baby can't move or leave the house. can't create Instagram, can't ride a push bike, right? Can't get into an R18 game when they're 9 and 10 years of age. So their needs are very defined. Shelter, warmth, food, hugs, love, and the really important one that we don't talk enough about is harmonised, respectful communication. And as you grow, those needs don't decrease or go away, they get more vital because you're exposed to more and more of the world. And one of the common things I get from young people, as I said earlier, is that they're complaining that mom and dad are always on the devices, not paying them attention. Now we have to give a break to mom and dads because they live busy lives and they've got work to do. But at least every day of the week at some point we need to put this technology down, face each other and spend time together. Because if we don't do that with young people, they will learn to stop talking to us. And of course when young people go silent, that puts them in a disadvantaged position because we don't know how they're feeling. So what I encourage all people to do is to find their inner voice, to talk about what they need in the world, and if you believe that adults within your lives, particularly the ones that are watching this video, if you've got family members that you think are not putting their technology down enough, don't judge them, tell them in a loving way that you want to spend time with them. And there's a lovely saying that I found, it was in America, when you speak from the heart, it enters the heart. So if you want your mom and dads and people in your lives to listen more, say, look, I love you, I'm missing you. Can we put the technology down and just spend some more time talking to each other? Those are vital things that will contribute to a child's well-being. Learning to speak, learning to communicate and getting what we need. Any comments on that video?
No, you go.
It was really fascinating to see like how quickly the child reacted if it didn't get like the attention that it needed.
Amazing.
Yeah, and just like how it just changed.
And use the environment, pointing
Yeah.
to get mom's attention. Any comments?
It kind of shows us that communication is really important. Like even with the baby, she was trying to communicate to the mother, like, talk to me please. And like when you get older and you stop talking, it just has the same effect.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well done, well done.
Same thing. Like, if we don't communicate, we're never going to get our point across, and nobody's going to hear us, and nothing's ever going to change. So if we're always silent and just letting things happen, then nothing's going to get better, and eventually they'll just ignore you.
And though that really energises me when I hear young people talking like that, it really does. Any comments?
I definitely agree with the spending time together as a family every day.
Yeah.
We did that through our childhood, having dinner together every night as much as we could.
Yes.
And it's brought us really close. Like obviously every family has their
Of
tiffs,
course,
but
of course.
it's made us a really close family, which I love. So I do encourage more people to do that
And we're
from my
encouraging,
experience.
yeah, and we're encouraging mom and dads to think like that as well, right?
They have to realise that technology isn't, like, they are influencing young people with how they're using technology.
And I guess if we give a break to mom and dads, nobody could teach them because it didn't exist for many mom and dads.
Exactly, it's a whole learning experience.
So you guys are like the mass experiment in
Yeah.
some form. Any comment?
I've got another interesting point, just how, like, as we grow, our needs become greater and we have more specific needs.
Yeah.
I guess that also, there's a wee correlation there with how much we need to advocate for ourselves as those needs increase.
Absolutely superbly put. There's no question of that. The voice that you've got is yours by right. And if you don't use it, you lose it. Any comments?
Yeah, well, it's just like you need to
It's okay. The subject is really emotional as well, and it can be hard to sort of get out what you're thinking
yeah.
about.
It's like when your parents like tell you to put your technology down, and then they like still are on theirs. You're like,
hypocritical.
yeah, you're like, well, it's not really fair.
Okay, so there's no equality there.
They obviously think because they're the parent, they get to rule you. They have like this, I don't know, they're higher up, they get to tell you what to do, but it is, you have to be respectful equally.
You do, and I guess I'll add something to that, and then I'll give parents a break, because I'm a parent, is we judge your age group for taking pictures of other people without asking for permission, right? But we've been doing that to you all your life without asking you. And when you pick up the same technology and do that to someone else, we judge you for that. So I don't think you've got to change, we've got to be conscious of how we use it in your presence. But I will say this, in the 80s and the 90s, you knew when you finished work because you couldn't take the office home. Today, parents are taking their technology home and having to work more and more. And conditioning from society and employers is forcing adults to do far more work outside of their typical workspace in the living room. And that's the issue. When we move into our personal spaces and do work, it can start to degrade and fracture those meaningful relationships. And remember that communication is vital as it contributes to well-being. So I'm going to sort of give you a challenge here, and I say this to all young people. Find your voice. Start using it. Exercise your right to be heard. You know, find ways to become assertive. Role play it. You know, speak about what you need within your living space, because if you can practice that at home, you can do far better when you go into the work environment, and you do need a voice there, there's no question. And the last thing I'm going to leave you with, is I talk to all young people. You live in a democracy, which is an incredibly important thing. We're so fortunate. There are so many young people around the world that will never get the right to vote. Don't squander your right. As soon as you're old enough to vote and that time comes around, regardless of what your political orientation is, that's irrelevant to me. But do exercise your right to vote, because that is part of your voice.
Especially with us women, it is International Women's Day, we have fought to be able to have as much rights as we do now, so we can't let that slip. Like, we are important. All our mums will work, I assume, and they're busy. So when you get to that age, you'll understand from their perspective. But yeah, don't let men take us over.
Any final words?
Yeah, I just think this is really valuable to be able to speak up and express your rights and have your own values.
Absolutely.
Which is just very important.
And let people know how you feel.
I think the main part that spoke to me was the communication bit, like also our parents bringing work home. I think that's really important, and that we should take more knowledge of, and we should like bring it into our own lives.
Good, fantastic.
Yeah, like you said before, like it's really important that we can say how we're feeling, because again, if we don't, we'll get walked over. Like, if we have a chance to do something and speak up, we should do it. So then we all have a say in what we're doing, and if something doesn't work out, you can at least say, I tried.
That baby knew that when the baby advocated, things can get better for her, right? So I guess what I'm going to say to you now is this. If you believe you've got friends or you know of people that are struggling, encourage them to speak. If they can't speak, then we speak on their behalf. There are so many people in your lives that will stand next to you, that love you, that support you. And there are counsellors in schools, there are doctors, there are so many people around us. Our task is to go forward when we need help from them. One thing I learnt as a young person, when I wanted to talk to someone, if I found it challenging, I'd stand in front of a mirror, visualise the person, and say about 3 or 4 times, I'd just role play it. And that helped me then when I went forward to talk to them. I am so proud of the way you've talked about the issues that we've got here. Remember that you do have human rights. You have a right to be heard. And when that time comes to vote, vote. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.